And welcome to this B2B Sales Playbook webinar entitled How to Make Sales Fun. I'm your host, Joe Ducaro. Are you tired of the same boring old sales strategies at all? We thought so. So we're joined today by someone known for injecting fun and comedy into the world of sales. It's Brand Awareness Manager for SalesLoft, Tom Boston. Tom, how you doing today?
Joe, I'm doing very well. I'm feeling good. I've had a good week, and we've got some sunshine, which can only be a good thing.
Finally.
It feels like winter has left us, and let's onwards towards summer. So yeah, feeling good.
Absolutely. Do you know, it's just a bit of nice weather just makes everyone a bit happier, doesn't it? So let's jump straight into some questions I've got ready for you, Tom. Can you tell us your personal story and how you became an expert into making sales fun?
Yeah, well, I'll give it a good go. I mean, I am the brand awareness manager at SalesLoft, and my journey into that role started as an SDR, right? And it wasn't the first SDR role that I'd had. I'd had a fair few sales roles before I found one that really kind of suited me. And it was during that role that I decided to, I guess, experiment, if you like, with building a personal brand and using social media. And I knew that it was probably a good idea, but I had, openly didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying a lot of things.
Hmm.
And luckily a lot of the things worked. A lot of the content landed with prospects, started to build an audience. And now here I am. I get to bang the drum for SalesLoft and also help other sellers who want to inject some fun to their process and want to learn about social selling, how to do that too. So I feel very
Hmm.
lucky to be able to do that.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you were touching on it there on, helping other people do the same thing, inject a bit of passion, a bit of fun into it. What are the biggest challenges facing those SDRs that, because sales can be a tough gig? What's what are the biggest challenges of getting them to go, right, here's how we're doing this then?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, and you touched on it there. Sales is a tough gig. I would actually go further than that and say sales is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, right? And it's constant rejection. It's disheartening. I'm really selling it to anyone who's looking at a sales role
Anyone's
right
thinking
now.
about it.
It's an uphill battle, and the lows are really low and the highs are really high. So like it does take a certain type of person, I think. But when we're looking at challenges and what are the challenges that people face in regards to making it enjoyable, I would say it's sellers' hearts not really being in it, right? You really
Mm,
have to kind of, you know, face it head on and understand that it's going to be really difficult, and your heart has to be in it in the sense that, yeah, I know this is going to be tough, but I also know this could be really great, and I know that I can achieve my goals. I know that I can make an impact. I can elevate my career. So it's about embracing just how difficult it is. I think that's the biggest challenge. And the people who kind of drop off or don't do as well are the people who go, well, I don't think my heart was ever really in it in the first
mm.
place.
So I suppose it's what you're saying is it's making that absolute commitment of changing your mindset to go, you can't change the fact that sales is hard. What you can change is your mindset about it. So I assume then that's what leads to being able to sort of put out like humor and content in that way is because you're exposing that hardship, right? If you're sharing that hardship, that's what makes it relatable. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was in a particularly fortunate situation that the product that I was selling, SalesLoft, solved a lot of the pain points that sellers go through. And I
Mm,
was also going through them as a seller. So it felt like the perfect combination of, well, here's my content, right? I'm already reaching out to prospects and telling them how we can make their sales process easier. So why not turn that on its head and talk about the pain points on social to kind
mm,
of really shine a light on that and just how kind of hard it is. And that's the content that's worked really well for me because salespeople, sales leaders, And anyone who's ever done a sales role looks at that and goes, "Oh, I get it. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, you know."
Yeah, yeah. So how important was it that you 100% believed in the products that you were selling?
Well, I've done roles in the past where I've not believed in the products that I'm selling. My very first role in B2B sales, I sold gas and electricity, and it's safe to say that my heart wasn't in it, Joe, you know, because it's tough to get really excited about that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, that was where I kind of honed my craft, and that's where I got my thick skin. Because I tell you,
Mm.
if you want to get some training on rejection, try and sell people utilities. Right. That's a good tip for you. But I think that, like, yeah, if you can find a product or service that you can get behind and that you know adds value. Like I joined SalesLoft because I'd used SalesLoft at a
Mm.
previous company. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I want to go work there because I'll be able to talk about this because this is great. And I think that, like, that came across when I was a seller. And I don't know about you, but the great sales experiences I've had are from sellers who are like, well, I use what I'm selling, whether that's, software, or whether that's, I don't know, trainers. If you can get excited about the thing that you're selling and you're actively engaged in the sector and all that kind of stuff, that becomes infectious. And I think
Mm.
it's so important. And again, not everyone's in the situation where they're working at a company where they can really get behind it because maybe their heart's not quite there. But if you can try your best to shift your mindset, I know that's what I did selling utilities, right? I still had fun. I still had fun at work. Otherwise, I would have probably lost my mind. Right? It's about trying to find ways to get behind what you're selling because that's so
Mm.
important.
So let's get back into talking about creating content then, Tom. I wonder what did that first bit of content look like for you? What was that process of going, okay, well, I've had an idea. It's like, well, I'm going to make something and put it out and then see the response of it. What was that journey like?
Yeah. So I knew content needed to be on my profile because the first step in my sales process was connect with someone on LinkedIn. It was
Mm.
literally step one. And I looked at my profile and I was like, there's nothing there. There's no content that brings my personality out, and there's no content which is about what I'm selling. So I leaned into video. I was like, video is a really great way to just get my face on my profile.
Mm.
And I took myself away to a meeting room in 2019 and I did a one take to camera on my phone. And I spoke for about 2 minutes, but I didn't really say anything.
Mm.
I don't know if you've done those pieces of content maybe in your early career. It was just me waffling, right? But the basis of it was, hey LinkedIn, because that's how you start LinkedIn videos, right? When you're new. Hey LinkedIn, I am going to record a video every week and see what happens. That that was it. I kind of publicly set myself a mission to record a video every single week. I didn't know what the direction would be or where it would take me, but I'd almost gone, yeah, I'm going to set myself a challenge. I'm going to see if I could record a 1-2 minute video every week and kind of see what comes of it.
So then, and then that evolves into the sort of the comedy sketches that you make. Then, at what point do you think the company started leveraging you as an asset in that way? Going, hang on a minute, Tom's got something here. What was that like?
Yeah, that took a long time to be completely honest, right? It probably took about 6 months of me recording a video every week for it to even, yeah, get traction and start to become like a thing. And I'm
Mm.
quite honest about that. I don't like to set kind of false expectations that, oh well, you do a couple of videos and boom, you're away. It took it took a while. But I think that, like, after about, I'd say 2 or 3 months, I'd started to get messages from people internally, a lot of the team out in the States who had kind of seen the content. And then that started to filter onto our social channels, and they would then repurpose the content I was creating. So yeah, that whole process probably took about 6 months.
Mm.
But in the early days, it was kind of me just giving things a go, seeing what works, seeing what didn't, and a lot of things didn't work, you know.
Yeah, and I think something that when you make videos and you're trying to, make something that's a bit entertaining or a bit funnier, my first rule I always apply is don't worry about looking stupid. That's the first thing I think you have to get over. Is just look, it's fine. You just need to get over that. Could you give us some examples of successful sales campaigns that have used a fun, unique approach in a similar way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for unique approaches, and I think that like as sellers, that's what we should all be looking to do anyway, right? I know that before I ever create a video or do a piece of prospecting, I ask myself, is this the best thing that my prospect will receive today? And if it's not,
Mm.
let's maybe try again, or at least try to think like outside the box, right? Because I think it's so important in this world of sellers just with the same messaging, repeated over and over again. How do you stand out? How do you, specifically grab someone's attention? Now, I do have a quick story. This is pre-COVID, right? This is back in the day when I was office based, but we discovered that a few of our prospects were based in the same building as us, right? And we grabbed a load of Sales Loft swag and we headed up in the lift and we cold called, right? But old school, where you knock, you knock on the door, and completely different experience, right? So let's say the prospect's called Dave. We kind of knocked and said, "Can we speak to Dave?" And as we said it, his head, because he heard his own name, his head turned around, and the gatekeeper or the person who answered the door sort of went, "Yeah, he's just there." And Dave came up and spoke to us, right? Now, I love telling that story because you could email, you could call, you could prospect Dave for 4 weeks, but just knowing that he was in our building just gave us that impact to be able to get his attention kind of straight away. Now I tell that story because again, like in a world where we are looking to be different and stand out, is there opportunities for sellers to add physical interaction to their sales process?
Mm.
Like why not? It's so not done that it was, and it was so easy as well.
It's funny actually. It's reminded me of a story that I heard. We had Ollie Biddle on a webinar a little while ago, and he told the story about how they wheeled a massive Darth Vader just into a company. So they heard that this guy was into Star Wars, so we just got a life-size Darth Vader model, wheeled it in, and goes, right, we got someone here needs to see you.
I like that. Yeah, use the force. Very good.
Exactly. So then, while we've spoken about creating content that's got entertaining and comedic elements to it, how do you create and then maintain a fun and positive work environment for sales teams?
I think it's about open communication, right? I think it's about sharing the wins and also sharing the fails,
Mm.
because I think that's what keeps spirits up, right? Um, I can think back to conversations that I've had with my team, and often the most joyous conversations are about terrible calls that you've had, right? And you find yourself having more fun telling that story than you do telling the story of the deal that closed, right? And
Mm.
I think that's so important because back in the day, if we use my utilities role again, that wasn't part of the culture at that work environment. If something went wrong, I would go to the toilets and cry, and then I would come back to my desk and kind of grit my teeth and get back on with it. But I think that like now in a world where we've got remote workers, we've got different teams, we've got so many ways to communicate, like having an active way to connect with your team about things that work and things that don't are just a really good way to keep that fun and that excitement up. I
Mm.
love learning what's working for people. That helps me to grow and develop. But weirdly, I also love learning what's not working for people.
Absolutely. I
I
mean,
love
you can
hearing
only,
those stories.
yeah, I mean, but by sharing those again, it's just, well, yes, okay, you get a good story out of it, but you also you do learn something. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, now we know where not to go. So
Yeah.
So then let's going back to Dave upstairs then, and you knocked on the door to Dave. It's probably fair to say that he'll remember that for the rest of his career.
Yes.
And you've probably got a rapport relationship with him. So how does building relationships factor into making sales entertaining and slightly more enjoyable than just ringing up, hello, would you like to buy some gas?
Yeah, well, sales is only really enjoyable when you are hitting target, right? And I'm quite open and honest about that. You can have all the fun in the world and you can make all the LinkedIn videos that you like, but actually, if you're not hitting target, you're not really going to be enjoying the role, probably because you won't be in the role for a very long time, right? So I think it's so important to have that mindset of hitting target. But I think to go back to your question, the way to do that is to yeah have a mindset of, you know what, I have got a target to hit. I understand that I've got to get there, but to be successful and to have fun within that process, I need to have a structure that works. And I think that's so crucial in 2023,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. And so just continuing on with that then, how do you balance creating those relationships which lead to good deals and stuff, but also hitting your sales target? It's got to be a tricky one to balance.
Yeah, it's a funny one because you want to build rapport, but you also want to hit target. And I think
Mm,
the balance comes with actually building the relationship first. So I'll share this. One of the aims for me as a seller was to make my prospect smile. Now that might seem like a strange KPI, right? Because, well, actually, how does that benefit my target? But what I knew is, actually, if I'm creating a video that makes them smile, or I say something on the phone that makes them smile, or I send them an email that gets a reaction and makes them smile, I'm gonna set myself up for success later on down the sales process when I do ask for the meeting, or I do want to book some time with them, right? Or I do want to present my product or service. So I think the balance is really, really important. And I think sellers that thrive get that balance right. Okay.
mm.
Of course, I want to connect with my audience and I want to make them smile, but I also want to add value. And that balance, you hear the word edutainment. Have you heard that word, Joe?
I have heard that a couple of times, yeah.
I don't know what I make of it, but one thing in that word is, educate and entertain. If you're just entertaining your prospects and making them happy and making them laugh and smile, then that's not sales, right? Similarly, if you're just trying to sell to someone and hit your target, that's not really sales either, right? It's combining the two. It's rapport building, relationship building, adding value, educating, and ultimately helping.
Absolutely. Someone once said to me actually that any sort of content that you put out on your website, links or whatever, it should do at least one of three things. It should educate, entertain, and inspire. And the best content does all three. And again, it's very difficult to get that right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 100% agree with your point there. Um, who inspires you, Tom? I want to know where does this funny bone of yours come from?
Well, I've always loved comedy, right? My whole life. I've I've always enjoyed making people smile, and yeah, kind of went down that route as a younger person, right? Did a drama degree and enjoyed making people laugh. Have always enjoyed creating sketches and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I'm a self-confessed failed YouTuber. Filmed myself for a long time when I first moved to London. The content didn't do very well. Nobody cares, which was tough, which is tough to take. But in terms of the funny bone, like content online that I really engage with and connect with is the stuff that makes me laugh and smile. And I always say, like, you've got to do what you know, but also you've got to do what you love. And I think that,
Hmm.
like, that's also, it's always a tip I give people. If that's the kind of stuff that you enjoy doing and consuming, then that's the kind of stuff you should put out, right? There's no point trying to make memes and gifs if you've never cracked a smile at a meme or a GIF, because again, your heart's not going to be in it. So
Absolutely.
I say that to people I work with, right? You need to draw on your personality, your interests. You know, I'm quite a silly person. My wife will tell you that. You know, so that was always going to be part of my content and personal brand.
And are there any resources or tools that you could share with our audience that you use to help make that content at all? Or?
Well, there's a podcast that I recommend to the audience. You know, I don't know if you've heard of it. There's some northern bloke, some bald northern bloke with a ginger beard.
Oh yeah, sounds good so far.
The No Nonsense Sales podcast has been going now for about 3 months, and I've interviewed guests from the world of sales. I mean, the reason I recommend it is 15 minutes long. It's great insight for sellers, and it's often, as you spoke about, those kind of key takeaways like, oh, okay, I've learned something there. I've got some insight there. So yeah, great resource for your listeners. But other than that, you know, look at your own profiles, look at your own LinkedIn, right? And go to your activity, take a look at the last 10 to 15 pieces of content that you liked, that you shared, or that you commented on, because it was those scroll stoppers that got you to interact. So it's that kind of content that you should be inspired by. Again, goes back to what I was saying, you know, do what you love, create what you love, replicate content that you like to engage with.
100%. Tom, I'm just going to pause our conversation ever so slightly here. So this is just a reminder to everybody watching that this webinar is brought to you by Lead Forensics. And if you're interested in hitting your target and injecting some fun into your sales, you can sign up for a free trial of Lead Forensics right here. So we're just going to leave this poll up on the screen for a few seconds. So you can click claim my free trial. We will get in touch and set up your free trial. If you want to see who's looking at your B2B website in real time, then sign up for your free trial with Lead Forensics. Lovely stuff. Okay, Tom, I'm going to come back to you for one final question now, and it's a big one. So if there's one key takeaway, as we were just discussing there, one golden nugget when it comes to making sales more fun for sales teams, what is that one key piece of advice you'd like to give our audience today?
Oh, Smith, this is a good one. Let's have a think. Probably the phrase, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I think that I've used that in sales. I've used that in my life, right? And I genuinely, I don't want to get too serious about comedy, but I genuinely believe that humor and comedy is the antidote to anything in life that troubles you, right? Now, sales is very troubling, and I'm very honest about that. But I think if you can have an approach to sales where you're going, look, yeah, this is tough, but I can get through this, and I can try and find the humor, or I can try and find the joy. Lean on your colleagues to do that, right? Get on social to join a community that is also going through that too. And that's massively going to help you. And you know, Joe, I get messages from sellers who have said exactly that. They'll say, thank you, your content has got me through a tough day today. I've not had a great day on the sales floor, and I've watched a video and it's perked me up. And I love that. That's the best compliment you could give me. So yeah, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Lovely stuff. Tom Boston, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. Keep an eye on Lead Forensics' socials. We'll have another webinar coming up very, very shortly. But Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers.